Let me say good morning to those who've been listening to, of course, Classic Radio 105.5, 105.9 on the FM dial. Those of you who are viewing us this morning via GBN TV, Channel 7, Channel 11, Channel 20, good morning. Those of you via social media platforms, also good morning to you. Welcome. Whether you're viewing or listening via the Facebook page, YouTube channels, you're via GBN's webpage, gbn.gd, good morning and welcome. It's To The Point. Today, Wednesday, the 26th day of June. And my guest on the program this morning is the Honorable Dennis Cornwall. He's the Minister of Finance and also the MP for St. Patrick's East. Let me say good morning to Mr. Cornwall. Nice to have you on the program, sir.
Right. A pleasant good morning to you also. And I'm happy to be here today to speak to my constituents and the rest of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit-Matic, as well as persons who live in the diaspora.
All right, and we're certainly happy to have you this morning. As you mentioned, your constituents, I want to get the ball rolling on your constituents, St. Patrick's East. How is things between St. Patrick's East to get the ball rolling?
Okay, so I need to clear the air on a number of misinformation that is outside there regarding to the availability of the minister or the MP for the area, as well as what has been done in the community. Now, I must say that a lot is happening in St. Patrick East as we speak. Over the last 2 years in office, we would have had a number of activities, be it small projects in the community, as well as the soft side of things, where we will provide assistance to various groups and organizations within the community to ensure that they can carry on their business. I would go into details in terms of what I'm talking to, although I do not want to specifically refer to just the cement and gravels and concrete type projects and so on.
Yeah. So I guess it will focus on some of the accomplishments within the community.
Yes, I'll do that also.
Yeah.
So if I want to start with basically the soft side of things, there are a number of community groups in St. Patrick East that have actually sponsored the activities, including
all right.
I'll get it there. Just want to make sure I have it down back here.
Get those notes correct. I understand.
So girls in the community who have an interest in basically upgrading themselves, we would have provided sponsorship for them to ensure that they can do the necessary training that is available.
All right.
They would have approached the minister for that assistance, and I would have provided that assistance. I believe it's important that we pay attention to our girls in our communities as well as other youths.
Yes.
So that's something I am proud to say that I've been part of. Sponsored it in a big way, and I do hope that the activity would change some people in the community. I've also sponsored a football competition in the community. All right. And currently there is one competition that is taking place in River Sally playing field. In fact, this weekend I'll be up there to close that competition and to ensure that the persons who perform best get the benefit of the competition that took place there.
All right.
So I would say hats up to the guys in River Sally who have taken initiative to basically pull the young men together, take them off the streets, and get involved in something that is positive.
All right. I mean, youth development and young people development in general is essential.
Yes.
All right.
I've also sponsored the Young Boys Summer Camp in St. Patrick. And again, this is also helping us to move the kids off the street, get engaged into something positive. And I do hope that last year I sponsored 20 persons. This year they asked for sponsorship of 40 persons, and I've also contributed significantly to that program. There are other areas that I have actually sponsored, and I don't have the details with me right here, but I would say that apart from the concrete type projects and so on, we have done some soft things and so on, which would assist our community. All right. Let me now move into the projects itself.
Yeah.
You may recall sometime last year that we repaired that walk bridge to the Sulphur Spring that was damaged by the overflow of the river in that area and so on. We gave a small person in the community a contract to basically replace the bridge, and we are continuing to work on that because we need to put a cover over that bridge to protect the wooden part of the bridge so that it stays intact for a longer period and so on.
Okay.
I'll also move on to Livra. Now, Livra in St. Patrick has been the forgotten village for a long time. In recent times, I have actually gotten the road from the junction of John all the way down to Liver, Terry Boxers area, being rehabilitated and so on. It's still ongoing because there is another portion that has to be completed and so on. But I can say to you that when I pass through the village to check on what is going on, people say to me, in more than 40 years, this community has not seen a road repaired inside there. And now we have done that. There's a section inside there called Mary Pasture. I've also gotten solar lights installed in the area. And despite we may have challenged the landowners, because we need to at least have a conversation with them as to what we can do in there or not do, because you just cannot encroach on people's land.
So true.
But if and when I get the go-ahead to basically do all things, I will try and convert that area into a picnic area. So a person can go on a Sunday or on a weekend, on holidays and so on, to do picnic and so on, play games there, and to make sure that the community has a place to relax and rehabilitate themselves. There are many areas in River Sally that I would have actually completed some of the roads that were uncompleted. Box drains and so on, slipper drains, we have also done that. And I don't want to stay in River Sally because River Sally is from where I'm from. But in addition to that, I wanted to mention specifically the lighting of the playing field in River Sally. There were several months that this place was in dark. And sometime last year, I organized and got that lights replaced. The bleachers, we did some work on the bleachers. We put in a walkway for persons who use wheelchair. We also are covering the bleachers right now in some sections and so on to protect people from the sun and the rain. And we are continuing to do work in that area to make sure that the community has a well-equipped playing field.
All right.
There are also plans to basically furbish the basketball court in River Sally, Rose Hill.
Yes.
And we are going to undertake the building of basketball court in Hermitage St. Patrick. We have been struggling to get an appropriate piece of land to do that. We had some funding and so on for it, but we are not yet able to at least do it because of the lack of proper land space. But hopefully, as soon as we can get some land that is appropriate, we're going to build that basketball court in St. Patrick. I also want to mention a place in Hermitage called Bonham Village, going into Callaloo. That place has been abandoned by previous administration. In other words, during the 2008 period, the Prime Minister then, Honorable Tillman Thomas, started a road, a concrete road, close to the post office in road. Over 10 years now, that road has not been touched. I've recently gone in there and put in solar lights, clean up the road, and hope to build a bridge that takes them from one side to the other. Because when rain falls, it prevents the people living inside there from crossing the river. So kids can't go to school, husbands can't go to work, wives can't go nowhere and so on. So we need to fix that, and I'm actively pursuing that at the moment. There are other places in St. Patrick that we understand needs attention. And one of the major projects that we are talking about in St. Patrick that needs to be done is this breakwater project. Now, a lot of people may say that nothing is happening there, but a lot is happening.
Okay.
We are now involved in the CSIA, which is the work that is done to investigate what is needed, liaise with the community, and ensure that we can get all the facts together before we start actual construction. We are currently in negotiation also with the possible funder of that project, which is a regional bank that Glen is part of. And hopefully, once we can convince them that this is the amount of money that we need and so on, and this is what needs to be done there, we should get that project going sometime later this year. Now, one may see out there and say, oh, this thing has been on since then, and it's damaging properties down further south. Yes, we agree that this
has been a conversation for a wee bit.
Yes. Notwithstanding that, we believe we are confident that this project will start on the ground this year, and to correct some of the problems that we have. The lagoon in Soteas that is affecting the people in the Maho area, the Fawn Pasture area, the malaria drains that have been clogged up because of the same problem there. We are going to fix all of that. We are asking the people for patience still. Give us time to do what needs to be done so that when we do it, it can be long-lasting and sustainable in the future. Again, we have been hearing from people that the bridges in St. Patrick's, the Mares Bridge, the Monfentu Bridge, need for a road that takes you to Highgate. We understand that these people have their needs, yes? But some of the problems that we have received in recent time in terms of the heavy rain in December has complicated matters a bit because some of the bridges are undermined and so on. And again, you need to plan properly before you can throw resources at these things. Because if you throw monies at things that is not properly done, it will come back to haunt you at the end of the day. So again, people have to understand that a project does not get completed in 3 months, as they alluded outside there. We need to take our time to do what we need to do and to ensure that we do it properly. Roads in St. Patrick's, the main roads, they have been in the best conditions they have been in a long, long time. Again, we no longer just put stuff in potholes and try to fix it. We repave long distances of road and so on. The quality of the road in St. Patrick's is far better than most other areas I've seen. And for those who continue spreading this misnomer that nothing's happening in St. Patrick, they need to stop it. And this is why I'm here today, to show you that a lot is happening in St. Patrick, and not what you're hearing outside there on the radio, that nothing is happening and the ministers are not there. We are there, and we're doing much more than we should do. Because we are human beings also, and we need to take a time off to basically make sure that we sustain ourselves and our livelihood. If not, we'll be dead.
So true, so true. Now, you have spoken about numerous, of course, in terms of some of the things that have been accomplished, some of the achievements. You have spoken about that. What's the future for St. Patrick's East from your personal perspective? You being part of government now, what's your personal take on that in the future of St. Patrick's East?
Well, I think there is a bright future for St. Patrick's, and I'm going to start by saying that my government has supported the building of a brand new hotel in St. Patrick, that's the Grenada National Resort in Livera. Now, this hotel project, done by an investor, the Hang Seng Group, has spent a significant amount of money so far in terms of getting the project off the ground. In our last visit in that area, we can see that there's a huge improvement in terms of what is happening on the ground. There's sufficient material on the ground. There is work going on. There's high-tech equipment on the ground that is making things happen. Now, most people would not see that because they are not trafficked in that area, and I need to talk about it and so on. When that project is finished, which we hope would be by late 2026, early 2027, it requires a lot of workers, be it persons to run that hotel, and I'm not talking about the low-end type of work. We need persons of all levels to be able to participate in that hotel project. Now, I am making a clarion call to people in the community, whether it is in St. David's, St. Andrews, St. Patrick's, St. John's, and even St. George's, to prepare yourself for employment in those areas and so on. If you don't do that, the hoteliers would have to basically find ways and means to get workers for the hotel. And we would not want to see, for example, persons coming from far as Taiwan, China, or wherever it is to come here to do work that we can do here. So prepare yourself. Get trained. There is time, sufficient time. Between now and 2027, you have at least 3 years to go and equip yourself to make sure that you can be part and parcel of this project.
Is government also preparing that, helping people to prepare themselves for that particular project coming up? You said prepare yourself and individuals, but what part is government playing to help that regular individuals, and you say not only the low end but individuals who may have to take the high end job, the managerial positions and so forth? What is government doing in terms of assisting individuals in that level, especially from your point of view as being a minister for the particular constituency? What is
well, I know government has big plans for training people. In fact, some of the school programs that we have ongoing right now, we may have to tweak some of them to make sure that the NULOs and the TAMCCs and so on produce persons that can actually acquire those jobs. But additionally, there are schools, programs around that can now fit you to become a good accountant, a good manager. And I think people should be aware of those things and take advantage of it and so on. So it's not that, okay, we just talk about it, but we have been working towards making sure that there's an avenue where a person can go and get themselves trained. Even securities, train yourself, because those jobs wouldn't be needed and so on. Landscapers for the hotel grounds and so on. Even things like security posts and cyber security and so on, because that facility would also have things like a casino. It has other gyms and so on and so on. And we need people to maintain those equipment and make sure that safety is a key component of this project also.
Interesting. But so we do for a break. Let's take we come back. When we come back, we'll get into more concerns about your ministry and so forth. When we do come back, nice hearing about all the, of course, accomplishments within your constituency. When we come back, folks, we should chat more about that. Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back after the break.
Here's an assignment for you super sleuths, should you choose to accept. Every single-use plastic thrown into the environment has a fingerprint on it. Who does it belong to? That plastic bottle or food container was imported and distributed to warehouses, supermarkets, shops, food trucks, school canteens, vendor trays, and eventually made its way to us. So how did it get buried in the environment? Whose fingerprint is on this? Since several laws, including international agreements, prohibit polluting, hold on to that plastic bottle or food container until you get to a bin and dispose of it properly. Separate plastic waste for transport to a facility that reuses, repurposes, or recycles. It's the responsible thing to do.
Been up in the 7 people, 7 to the West Indies. Grenada must no mass like this. No mass like this. Jumping up in the 7 people, 7 to the West Indies. Grenada must no mass.
This moment is all that I've been dreaming of.
Well, focus.
Cricket, lovely cricket, as we bring you ball by ball commentaries of the T20 World Cup. The Cut and Drive Network, in association with this radio station, are pleased to be a part of the excitement. Join me, Andrew Mason, as I lead a team of top-class cricket commentators right through to the finals on June the 29th at the historic Kensington Oval. Cricket, lovely cricket, on this radio station. You got a date, so don't be late.
This moment is all that I've been dreaming of.
Well, focus.
Join us on GBN TV every Monday at 5:50 p.m. and on Classic Radio at 5:50 a.m. every Tuesday and Thursday for Revival in the Land, a program dedicated to bringing hope, faith, and renewal into our lives, hosted by Pastor Ricardo Aline of the Latter Rain Revival Center. Discover the power of faith and community. Revival in the Land, where hearts are healed and spirits are lifted.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. It's To The Point here on Classic Radio, GBN TV. Let's welcome back, of course, Minister of Finance, Honorable Dennis Cornwall. Minister Cornwall, welcome back once again.
Thank you.
All right. I want to get into another segment of our conversation this morning. I want you to, recently we had the IMF, of course, preliminary report been released and so forth. Give us some, can you share your views on the recent IMF preliminary report?
Okay. Let me begin by saying that the IMF Article 4 consultation is an annual exercise that is taken by the World Bank IMF in our country. It's not that, for example, that the country is ailing from some kind of sickness, that's why they're here. They do that every year as a rule. Last year, when they were here, they gave the Grenada economy a very good rating in terms of what we have been able to achieve in the first year in office. The second year, they came again and they commented that Grenada continued to be on the growth trajectory and so on. Leading that charge would be the tourism sector. There are other sectors that contribute towards growth in Grenada, but we must emphasize that things are happening in Grenada that cause the economy to be ticking upwards. Now, in 2023, there was a growth rate of almost 5%. In 2024, it is projected that we can achieve a 2.9%, 2025, 2.6%, and 2026, we expect another 3.3% growth. That is coming from a situation where we had COVID in 2021, where things were really flat. And we have now turned that curve, and we can now say that Grenada is on its way up in terms of growth. The tourism sector, as I said earlier on, is doing pretty well, both on the cruise ship side of things as well as on the sea over tourism and so on. We can evidence that by the data that is being produced by the sector in terms of how many persons that we have visited the country as well as spending in those areas and so on. Construction has done well for us over the years, and construction, although it's going to be slowing down a bit because some of the projects like the Six Senses, the Intercontinental is on right now, the Grenada National Resort is on right now, but we do hope that in some cases in 2024 there might be a slowdown based on the pace at which those projects are going. But we do hope that those kind of projects will continue sustaining employment in the country, expenditure on materials and so on, and that should help take the growth rate upwards.
All right.
We also have to mention one other thing that is important. When we look at the debt to GDP ratio of the Grenada's debt portfolio, there's a tendency that this is coming down. In fact, after Ivan in 2005, remember then Grenada had lost about almost 200% of GDP. In other words, 90% of our housing stock was damaged, our agriculture was damaged, power generation was in a mess. Now we can boast of all of these things have turned around. We can see improvement in the housing stock, we can see improvement in construction, and really private contractors have had jobs to do in terms of refurbishing people's houses and so on. So moving from a debt to GDP ratio of over 100% back then to now to 65%, I think we have been going in the right direction.
Okay.
For some people who do not understand that when you get a windfall in revenue and so on, the best thing you can do is to repay your debt. And although Grenada still has difficulties in terms of one or two debts and so on, I could include the outstanding debt to Trinidad and Tobago. We have settled the one with Libya that was standing for several years, the other one with Algeria. Because Grenada has been dubbed over the last couple of years as a country in debt distress, as well as we have selected default on our debts. That is because there was lack of communication between three of the borrowers that creditors that I have mentioned earlier on.
Yes.
We have managed to get that done. So hopefully in the next couple of months, we can basically get the Trinidad and Tobago debt under control, and we should get out of the selected debt default situation, as well as we should be able to go back to the market and get a credit rating for Grenada. In fact, the last credit rating Grenada had was back in 2008, and we lost that after we have been dubbed country in debt distress as well as a selected default.
All right.
The economy, as we said, even though people out there are saying that they don't see it trickling down to the common man on the street, is moving. Right. And you can get that information from just going to the shops. And they will tell you that, for example, having basically moved from monthly payment of salary to a bi-monthly payment of salary, there is a lot more movements in the communities and so on. There are those who want to basically discredit that, and I don't have a problem in saying what everyone has an opinion. But I can tell the general population without a doubt that Grenada is moving and moving forward.
All right. I also want to ask you this. How does this particular report from the IMF stack up against, the recent reports? How does it stack up against?
Well, again, the IMF in doing the research and the consultation on the ground, they would have met with several stakeholders, be it the private sector, be it the non-NGOs, be it the community groups, be it the opposition party. Everybody would have had a chance to basically make a contribution as to what they think of the economy. The Ministry of Finance staff would also have looked at the data and make an assumption of it. Now, when we give the IMF and the World Bank that data and so on, they don't just take it and run with it and so on. They do their own interpretation of the information we give them. They go on the ground and they find out exactly what the Ministry of Finance has told them, if that is true, if that can be matched up against what is happening on the ground.
Yes.
And sometimes we are not too far off, because in fact, in most cases and so on, they have upgraded our growth rate and so on, because they have seen things to even say Grenada is doing pretty well, right? We don't force them to do that. They do that on their own volition, meaning that
it's unlikely to.
Right. And again, for those out there who believe that the IMF comes and maybe they're in love with the government of Grenada and so on, and that's why they give them a good report, is nonsense. You know, there are a lot of bush economists outside there who probably try to make what they think of the economy and so on, and without having the data, make pronouncement that they shouldn't. Because again, I am saying that to say that, you know, we report on the economy. We don't only tell the locals that. That information is spread throughout the world. So we have to be careful what we tell our people outside there, because if we're telling people that Grenada is probably the worst place to come, because things are not happening outside there and so on, we basically could actually discount our visitors from coming to our country. So we need to be objective, positive at most times, and tell the truth as it is. The misinformation that's outside is too much. It's not going to help us. And I believe that it's time that we take responsible situations and make it workable for us, rather than basically trying to pull the country down.
All right. I have another question. It's one of the conversation I've been hearing, and there's been a suggestion in the report that, you know, the removal of the subsidy specifically on that 40-pound cylinder. Is this under consideration? Are you going to give that? Are you going to ignore that IMF consideration at all? Is that with that particular issue?
Well, I think we are a caring government.
Yeah.
And despite the subsidy of that 40-pound cylinder of gas may seem onerous for us, we had to take it on board because there are a lot of people out there who, when you look at it, may or may not be able to afford that 40-pound cylinder.
Yeah.
With the 100-pound cylinder, the price goes up, goes down at times and so on. Yeah. So we can see that, yes, we allow that one to fluctuate, but we have kept the 40-pound cylinder of gas at the price it is at $40.
Yeah.
Now, there might be people out saying that we need to at least review that. But I think if we move to change that right now, it causes more harm than good. So yes, we listen to what they are saying. I mean, we live here. The IMF doesn't live here and so on. So we understand why, for example, that we need to basically hold tight on this $40 for the cylinder of gas for the so-called poor and vulnerable, because if we take it out and so on, life could become much more harder for them.
All right, so it's going to remain as is for now. For now. Let's talk a wee bit about the economy. You did mention about it, the economic situation. We are near the mid-year right now. Mid-year mark here in Grenada. What is the Grenada's economic situation as it stands right now?
Well, I think we're on the right track, without a doubt. I mean, revenue is performing well, both at the inland revenue as customs. I didn't mention the non-tax revenue in the form of the CBI revenue or IMA revenues. We have performed incredibly well in that area also. There were concerns about the Russian applicants that we have in the system. I think we are now winding down on the backlog that has been in the system, and so the revenue from CBI would basically sort of table up at this point in time. Right. I have no doubt that if everything continues as is, we should continue to have a sustainable growth in CBI revenues without having to include the Russians in there. Right. Because a lot of work has been done outside of the Russian market to make sure that we can sustain the projects in Grenada. And right now we have ongoing, as I said, the Intercontinental Hotel, we have the Grenada National Resort, as well as we have to bring back on stream the Kawana Bay Resort that is in Grandlands. That is going to come back on stream in recent time. Okay. I know we have done a lot of work to save the country millions of dollars from a lawsuit that we were facing back when we got into office. We have been able to settle that for just under $22 million thereabout. And we do hope that the investor who has now taken charge to rebuild that hotel would be able to start in a short time to make sure that this hotel is completed. Right.
Another question I would like to, will we seen any significant, significant supplementals to the 2024 budget, coming up? Anytime soon?
Well, let me say this. In every budget that you present, somewhere within the middle of the year, the Constitution affords us to at least bring at least 2 supplemental budgets to Parliament. Yeah. Currently, we have given notice to the ministries to look within the ministry and see where they have done well or where they have not done well, and basically try to reposition those monies and so on to make sure that we can get the money spent. Now, ministries may tell you that they have needs for additional funds. Yes, we do believe that that might be a case, and that's not in 2024 only, but throughout the years that we have seen budgets and so on. Yeah. But we are telling the ministry and department, before you come to us with a supplemental, make sure that you have looked within your budget and transfer the monies where they need to be transferred, to make sure that we can spend them. Now, there are certain conditions. You cannot move monies from recurrent budget to capital budget. And we, in the reverse, do not move monies from capital to recurrent. Recurrent means things like salary, materials, and so on. But it is a tool that we have to basically make the budget a living document, a practical document. Because again, at some point in time in the year and so on, we may estimate that this would happen and so on.
Yes.
Conditions on the ground may say, well, okay, you cannot do that now because, there might be a delay in the material coming in, or there's a delay in award in the contract because there have been difficulties here. Rain would probably come and change the whole scope of projects and so on. So there might be need for practical moving around monies from one place to the other and so on. Yeah. And the supplemental budget allows us to do that. Okay. So supplemental budget is not a sin. It's not something that you take lightly, and it's something that is needed to make sure that we can maximize the efficiency of the budget process.
All right. Another question I want to ask has been always hearing that conversation from time. Has government been having challenges in making payments, and if what are they? What are they if there have been challenges?
Well, let me put it that way. In the last 2 years in office, I have been in Minister of Finance for the last 14 months.
Yeah.
We have seen some very good progress regarding to government payments and so on, especially salaries to public servants. Yeah. You will hear out there, salaries have been paid late and pensions are not been paid and all them stories and so on. I consider some of them things to be just pure garbage. Mm-hmm. The reason I'm saying that, 99% of the public servants get their pay on time. They receive their monies on time. There might have been some few persons on contract who may or may not have received their monies on time because they were not part of the payroll system. You had to be raising a voucher every month to pay these people and so on. We have looked at it deeply within the ministries and so on, and we have tried to put everybody on payroll right now and so on. Yeah. Whether it's for the good or the better, but everybody should be on payroll right now and be able to get their monthly payment on time. Now, there are some teething problems that we'll face. For example, somebody might start a job and so on, they didn't have a NIS number, the NIS number might have been duplicated, or all these things would have caused problems because we have two systems that work together and so on to make sure that payroll is run in an efficient and timely manner. So the noise about payment have been made outside is just utter nonsense. We know people are still talking about they have not received their pay slip on time. Mm-hmm. But in order for you to get your pay slip on time, you must produce or provide the ministry with a valid email address. Okay. So we can program it in the system to ensure that you get your pay slip on time. If you haven't done that, why complain? Because if I ask you to give me an account for you where I can send your money in the bank and you have not provided that to me and so on, how could you claim that I have paid you late or I have not given you this and I have not given you that?
So these errors are sometimes not basically blamed on the Ministry of Finance?
Oh, everything is blamed on the Ministry of Finance because sometimes when a contractor say, well, I submit a claim and so on and I was told in the Ministry of Finance and we didn't get paid. The contractor's payment might be a different issue altogether because it doesn't follow the same routine as the monthly payroll or the bi-monthly payroll. But a contractor needs to make sure that all the information submitted are on time and that when we actually move to pay, that we don't find errors of mathematical errors, or incomplete information. And sometimes from the ministry's end, like Ministry of Infrastructure and so on, they need to basically look at the information, process it, make sure everything is dotted and T's are crossed before it is entered into the system. So when, for example, Ministry of Finance look on the system and there is a payment made, if they check it and there's no error, the money is paid in the defined 2 weeks' time, I think. Right. But if there are errors, they push back on the ministries and try to tell them to fix it. But if the other ministry is not fixing it on time, then you can't blame Ministry of Finance not having paid. And again, the contractors are not like the public servants and so on, where you have a routine specific date on which you are paid. The contractors are paid within a period. Okay. But the information must be authentic, it must be correct, free from mathematical errors and other issues, and then they will get the payment on time. Okay. So we have had some challenges there, and we are asking everybody to cooperate and make sure that that is done in a timely basis so that you can allow people to get their money on time. Okay. There are those who basically say that, oh, the government is broke, they don't have money and so on. That is so far from the truth. We have managed this economy such that we have adequate intake of monies and we make sure that we spend those monies in an appropriate and good manner. Right. We are not out there wasting monies. Okay?
Okay. Appreciate that a whole lot. Mr. Caldwell, we drew for a break. Let's take it. We're coming right back, folks. Stay with us. It's To The Point here. Of course, Classic Radio, GBN TV. We will be right back after the break.
Ma'am, we're here this afternoon to inform you that Billy's been involved in a motor vehicle collision and he has since passed.
Distracted driving is a deadly decision.
I am Audrey Jackson.
I'm Greg Jackson.
On February 19th at 4 a.m., a gun was used to take my son from me. You know him as Pop Smoke. We call him Shar. Because of gun violence, I'll never see my son run up the front of our steps, taking them two at a time. He won't ever take my hands again and dance with me. He won't come into my room and muscle pose in the mirror. Gun violence destroys families. It must stop.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. It's To The Point here on Classic Radio. It's Wednesday, and you know what happens on Wednesday here on To The Point. We do entertain various departments within government, and of course, we have with us today the Minister of Finance, the Honourable Mr. Dennis Cornwall, with us this morning. Mr. Cornwall, once again, welcome back. Our next level of the conversation this morning is another topical conversation, I would say, out there, that it relates to pensions. Can you give an explanation on the reason behind the new proposed pension scheme, if I can?
Okay, so to answer the question, I would basically have to take you back to the background behind all of this thing. Yeah. In the public service currently, you have established workers, you have unestablished workers, you have workers that dub contract for services or workers on contract.
Yeah.
Apart from the first category, which is established workers, these workers would benefit from a pension from government stemming from the 1958 pension rules. In other words, somebody who have worked as an established worker within the system is guaranteed a pension paid by the government of Grenada without having to contribute 1 penny. Now, the contract workers, they were hired for particular reasons and so on. They were working along the established workers, some of them doing similar jobs. But these people were going home without a pension at the end of the day. I believe that's an unfair situation. If we are to basically say, well, bring everybody on the establishment of government payroll, that is something that we know for a fact is not sustainable.
Yes.
Other persons may refer to that we have the NIS pensions where everybody contributes to that, and at the end of the day you get a pension. In the private sector, for example, people contribute to the NIS and they get a pension from NIS, as well as most companies, if not all, do have their own pension plans which their workers benefit from. We are saying that we want to make sure that all our workers within the system, within the realms of being paid by government, get a pension at the end of the day. But we know for a fact that we cannot bring them under the 1958 Pension Act. So we are going to bring legislation to the Parliament to ensure that the persons who are on contract be guaranteed a pension at the end of the day. But when you look at the numbers, as I said, it's almost 4,000 persons that we are talking about there. In the established public service right now, we have almost 4,000 persons. To basically provide 8,000 plus persons pension under the 1958 is totally not something that we can afford to do. And for those out there who believe that having to contribute towards a pension payment at the end of the day is not illegal, it's happening in most places in the private sector, and we believe it's not something new that we are doing. We're basically just trying to guarantee that persons who are not benefiting from the 1958 Pension Act is able to get a pension at the end of the day. However, it's going to be a contributory pension scheme rather than a defined pension. So that's the difference between one and the other. The defined pension is something that you know up front that you're going to pay persons after 26 and to 30 years X amount of money based on their last salary. For the contributory pension, we know that, okay, we are going to be asking workers to make a contribution to the pension as well as the government will make a contribution to the pension. And so at the end of the day, every worker in the public service will get a pension going forward. But again, we ought to do things properly. We are now conducting what is called a regularization process for all the contract workers out there to make sure that we can guarantee them sustainable employment. They can go to the bank to get a loan, they can build a home, buy a car, whatever it is, and so on. As it is right now, no banks, no credit union will basically deal with these people because they don't have a longevity of employment.
Yeah.
And one of the conditions for a loan in the bank and so on is that show me how you're going to sustain a period payment of that loan going forward.
Yeah.
And we are going to basically be able to afford these workers that ability to at least go to the bank, go to the credit union and get their monies at the end of the day. Because one, we guarantee them a sustainable employment after the regularization as well as a pension to go home at the end of the day.
Okay. Let me ask you this question. How much money do you expect to raise from this new scheme? And how many workers are going to be affected by this?
Well, as I said before, there are about almost 4,000 persons that are not qualified for a pension under the 1958 Pension Act. And so we have to create that new scheme to cover about that 4,000 plus.
That's for 4,000 plus.
Now, I'm not part of the committee that actually is looking at the fine points of it and so on, but I know work has been done to at least look at various options in terms of what we are going to ask the workers to be paying, what the government is able to contribute to make sure that it works at the end of the day. So I don't want to give you any premature figures.
All right.
But we do know that whatever we do is going to be beneficial to the workers and be able to at least have workers on a part of sustainability.
All right. Is there a consultation process that is going on right now, especially on this particular issues with unions, like the general public, financial sector, and so on? Is there a consultation process that is going on?
Yes, there is a consultation process. Some may want to say, okay, well, the government is doing its own thing and so on, but there is. Yeah. We are a committed group of persons who run this country that wants to ensure that there is peace and stability in this country, and we would do nothing to basically stop stability of this country.
Let's talk a wee bit about the benefit for workers that is expected, to receive from this new pension scheme. What are the benefits that new workers are expected to receive from this?
Well, the benefits is that whereas under the current situation you would have gone home after many years in the service, even sometimes equal years that could have qualified you under the established position, and you go home with nothing. I mean, some people who tell you right now that they have retired from the service and so on, and they were on the back burner hoping to get a pension and they got nothing. Thankfully, when my administration took office and so on, we paid the persons who were qualifying for a pension, and we also basically joined the service of many persons who wouldn't have qualified and so on. That's why, for example, we paid out $75.1 million in pension and gratuity to workers. I mean, some may say, the figure is only 500 plus persons and so on. And ONNP pay pension in the past. Let me tell you this. From since 1958, every pensioner that received a pension back then, it wasn't an NNP administration. It would have been a GULP, it would have been a NDC, it would have been a whatever administration in office and so on. They would have paid pension. We were talking about 500 plus persons who retired at age 60 and was not receiving a pension. And we made that good by paying the pension and gratuity in arrears back in 2023.
There's always that conversation that pension that government paid back in 2023 was a compulsory payment that you had to make due to a court decision.
I would agree with you, yes, because there was a court ruling which says that the workers needed to be paid a pension.
Yes.
Right? So whether or not it was an NNP or NDC in government, we would have had to pay it. But remember, before the elections, the court ruling was there which says that the workers must be paid the pension and gratuity.
Yes.
However, the administration dilly-dally around it and so on, talk about forming new committees to get this done and so on. We on the other side were campaigning. We talk about, well, we'll pay the pension whether or not there's resources there to do it. We even said that we were going to borrow money and pay it and so on if we need to. When we got in office, there was funds in the government accounts. We went ahead and paid the public servants the pension without any excuse and so on. So those who want to basically make it an issue of politics, it's not an issue of politics. We have met the workers where we need to meet them. Make sure that they go home with a guaranteed pension and gratuity and they can continue their life. It was one of the biggest transfers of funds from any government in history to our citizens of Grenada, and I think that's a very plausible thing. So that's why we can toot our hands and say, we paid the pension.
Now, is there a specific reason why this issue is slated for October and for the passage for just that quick implementation of it? Why is it slated for that?
Well, we did mention that the regularization process would take at least 3 phases.
Yes.
We would have completed one phase where about 300 persons would have been impacted. We have several categories of workers in the contract segment and so on, right?
Yeah.
We have the Imanis, we have the persons who would have been occupying position that on the establishment and so on. So we need time to make sure to iron out all the issues that we need to. And again, we don't do things willy-nilly. We have actually scheduled a program step by step as to when we're going to get it done and when we think it's possible to at least happen. So the date of October 2024 is basically bringing everybody on board and having the regularization completed. It's not a date where we pull it from the hat. We actually scheduled that and we know we're working towards that.
Right.
In fact, we're going to go to Parliament later this year to make sure we pass that new Pension Act and to have everybody in the public service, whether established or non-established, on contract or otherwise, be guaranteed a pension so they can go home feeling that they have achieved what they need to achieve during their work life.
All right. I know we're getting up to 50 minutes before the top of the hour, but I want you, as you mentioned it a while ago, some questions come to mind as relate to contract work. Mm-hmm. Tell me, Minister, you've been on regular slated by the NDC government will end contract work as soon as they come into office. Mm-hmm. I know you remember that famous statement. Yes. That famous statement. Recently, we heard the Prime Minister, of course, on some 350, should I say 2,500 or so people are still under contract by the government. What is the hold up in regards to removal of contract work, especially since the PM is also on record of calling it illegal? Tell us about that.
Well, let me try and address this matter. When the Prime Minister made those statements back then, he was not incorrect and he still is not incorrect.
Yes. Reason
being, you had somebody who is basically occupying an established public servant position, and every 6 months that person would receive a renewed contract. Yeah. It didn't give them the authority or the will to basically be able to enter a financial institution and say and get a car purchase or land purchase or whatever, because they didn't have the tenure to have it done.
Yes.
Now, while we still have those numbers of persons on contract, and I have said before that there is no need for dual public service in Grenada and so on. And when I said that, I know exactly what I was saying, because as I said earlier, the government back then went ahead and established contract workers and so on to basically deal with the issue of the growth in the public service, to basically counteract whatever they were being told by the IMF that they need to basically control the public service. At the same time, the government was holding that position because they wanted to make sure that in the event that the established public work servants go on a strike, that they had ample persons to basically run the country. It was like a break-in strike kind of mechanism that the government was using. And we were saying that there is no need for that. You cannot be working alongside an established public worker, same qualified, doing the same job. One is getting a pension, one is not getting a pension. That is definitely keeping the same people that you're talking about, you're concerned about, poor and vulnerable, because when you finish your work life, you have no benefit, no money to go home with and so on. So we needed to basically put an end to that. And this is what I'm saying. I still hold the statement I made back on the campaign trail. There is no need for a dual public service and so on. Mm-hmm. We need to ensure that we understand that in the context and not just go out there and twist everything that Mr. Cornwall says and make it look as though we don't know what we're about.
All right. Now tell me, what has been the implementation of income regularization between June of 2022 and now? How has this transformation of contract and regulation workers will be done overall?
Right. Well, I'd say as of December gone, we would have actually regularized 300% thereabout. I think it's 299 thereabout. Yeah. And the process continue. Now, again, I'm not a part of the committee, so I can't tell you the stage at which, but I know from time to time we get reports that this has taken place, and we are expecting, as promised, that we're going to get a report in just a few months before the October date that we intend to go to Parliament to have that matter settled with and so on. So I'm confident that the committee is working, there's work going on right now to make sure that this can happen. And if NDC say that it is going to do it, rest assured it will be done. All right.
When can we look forward to that or see that regularization of all Imanis? You know, that you always hear they talk about they want to be regularized. Imani workers in the public service, as promised by your administration.
I do not pretend to have all the information on the Imanis.
Yeah.
But I know that there is close to 2,000 Imanis outside under various status.
Yeah.
There are Imani teachers, there are Imanis that are doing all sorts of things, there are Imanis even sitting home, doing nothing. So when that Imani story is coming up and so on, don't make it look as though we are against the Imanis and so on. We have to fix the Imani situation and so on. I see no reason why an Imani person is not placed and is still receiving monies from home. There are Imanis placed in private sector's company and so on, where we expected that the private sector contribute towards the salary as government also pay a portion of it. Yeah. And some of these Imanis were not benefiting from what the agreement that we agreed to back then. There are some Imanis that are still underpaid. They are utilized by the private sector and so on, but they're not paid properly by the private sector. We have encouraged the private sector to basically move in and elevate these persons to the level at which the government has done with some of the workers, like giving them most of them the $1,200. But you would hear some of them, I don't have the money to do it and so on. So you are happy to utilize the Imanis to do your work, but you're not prepared to pay them what we ask you to pay them and so on. Is that fair to the Imanis?
It's not.
So we need to fix the Imani story. And the Imani story is not what you're hearing outside and so on. It's much more than that. There are too many complications and problems where the Imani is concerned. Yeah. There were about 8 batches of Imanis. I can't remember the exact numbers in each batch and so on. But each of them have complications. How could you tell me that Imanis were supposed to be trained for a 2-year period and some of them have gone past 10 years as a Imani receiving back then $700. The Imanis who were teachers in the schools that were receiving $700, and some of them might be still there. They have families to take care of. They are husbands. They would like to basically own a house, buy a car. Can they afford that on the $700 or even on the $1,200 at this point in time? No. So we need to fix that.
All right.
Right? I don't have the magic wand for it, but I'm sure that as we speak, work is ongoing to make sure that we fix this problem.
All right.
I've heard recently that they are asking Imanis to re-register. Do you know that we don't know where some of the Imanis are? There are Imani supervisors outside that we can't tell where they are, what they are doing. I've even heard that, for example, the Imanis that have moved on to other jobs and so on, whether it's in the private sector or even have traveled, but they still are a part of the Imanis and so on. We need to fix that. If we are responsible government and so on, we need to take steps, put aside the politics and so on, and get this thing fixed once and for all.
All right. I have another segment of questions. I know we drew for time, and I know there are folks who are listening may want to ask you a question or two. I want to speak about the CBI for a wee bit. What are we looking in terms of the CBI program? How are we looking? How is Grenada looking?
Well, Grenada has done quite well with the CBI program, despite the negativity you have heard of that. You know, most people refer to the CBI program as, you know, we governments are just selling passports and so on. That is so far from the truth. You know, when you look at, for example, the Six Senses Hotel that has been completed and is commissioned right now and is employing several Grenadians at this stage and so on, to me, that is what you need to look at. We have also looked at the Intercontinental is going up, that is employing local contractors and persons in the construction of the hotel and so on. Yes, we are providing jobs for people, and there are others. So to say that, okay, that we are only selling passport and they starting numbering it and so on, 3,000, 4,000 passport and so on, and what does that mean for Grenada and so on? We are happy to get foreign nationals to be part of the system where we can actually grow our economy and so on. And I believe that if money is invested, there should be reward for it and so on. Yeah. So I have no difficulty for that. But we need to basically stop being myopic and start thinking outside the box and so on, and see that the CBA has been a very good component for Grenada, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Dominica, Antigua and Barbuda. There are 5 countries involved, and we have now signed an MOU to ensure that most of the things that we want done is common among the countries and so on.
All right.
Having done that, we believe that there is a lot more to achieve from that CBI or IMA program, and it augurs well for Grenada.
All right. What are some of the challenges faced with the program? What are some of the challenges facing the program, actually?
Well, one of the biggest challenges faced by the program is that we hear from the marketing persons out there that the turnaround time for granting the approval for applicants is too long. But remember, we have an obligation to make sure that we screen everyone who basically applies for the program.
Yes.
Because we don't want to basically bring into our system unwanted persons who will basically bring more problem than we need. So every applicant has to go through a due diligence program. And we ensure that we do that not only by utilizing Grenadians, but we utilize reputable entities outside, Interpol and others and so on, to make sure we screen everybody for security reasons, to make sure that when we basically approve a person to be a part of the program and be able to grant them a passport, that person is quickly clean or above board.
You know, you being Minister of Finance, what is the percentage of government's revenue is gained from the CBI, directly or indirectly?
Okay, so I don't want to basically give you a particular percentage, but I can tell you it's close to the 50% mark.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean that our traditional revenue performing entities from Inland Revenue, Customs, and elsewhere is not performing well. We have always said that the revenue offices and so on, or even the revenue generating offices and so on, have been performing well above the targeted amount that they have put together in the budget. Yeah. So we believe that on that basis we can sustain our economy. And I don't want to basically push the idea that without CBI we cannot survive. We can survive without CBI in a way. In other words, I'm saying that to say that Grenada is not dependent on CBI running to run this country.
All right.
Right? So I need to make sure that we do not give the wrong impression out there that without CBI we are dead.
I'm not sure if you do have the information off your head this morning, but new projects. You know, we always hear about the CBI program, and of course part of the criteria becoming a CBI. And you know, you part of the project. There's always that project that you'll be part in. So, can we look forward to under the CBI some investment in mainly or just existing scale projects?
Well, I can say currently IMA, that is the former CBI entity, has rebranded from CBI to IMA.
Yes.
This rebranding is not just a name change. It's going to involve a number of things. We are looking at other sectors that we probably want to get involved in. We are also looking at even the persons that we have given approval for citizens of the country to even try and bring in much more investment to Grenada. So somebody who basically has applied for citizenship and they got it and so on, that person might be a medical doctor, that person might be a astute businessman and so on. We are encouraging these people to come to Grenada and invest in Grenada and augment the GDP of this country.
All right.
By employing our local persons, by producing goods and services that can be bought outside of Grenada also, and to make sure that we can sustain a stable growth in our economy.
Now, what is the procedure if you have a client that wants to come to the, or should I say, comes up in a cabinet approval? If they want to come in, is that to be a cabinet approval for that?
Well, let me tell you how the process works.
And they have any utilized procedure or so that has to go through?
IMA or CBI has established procedure for every applicant, and they go through more or less the same procedure. Now, there might be 3 levels of applicants. You have low level, middle level, and high level clients based on the risk. Now, a high level risk person might take a longer time to basically go through the DD and so on, because you have to check everything. A low risk person and so on maybe take you around 3-4 months and so on to get out of the system. Every time IMA or CBI completes the review of an applicant, that is being reviewed by the CBI board, and a submission is made to cabinet to basically approve that client. So we get batches of, let's say, X amount of persons on a submission come into cabinet sanction it, and we give the approval or not. There might be applicants that do not meet the grade and so on because they will fail the DD and so on, and therefore we reject those applicants and so on. So it's not a case where we just give all persons who basically want to come in the system and so on, whether you're a criminal or not. We don't just basically give you. We basically review whatever DD tells us, that the due diligence, and we make a decision based on that.
All right. We almost stopped for time, but I have one final question. Are you know, or have you ever been a CBI agent, sir?
I used to own a local agent company, but that company has other shareholders and so on. Since I became Minister of Finance, I've stepped back from that company, and I do not actually actively involved in anything that has to do with my company.
All right. Folks, we drew for a break, almost time, but we're probably going to have an extra 5 minutes on the show or so that we can give you, our listeners and viewers, opportunity to ask, of course, the Honorable Minister Lance Cornwall a question or two. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we entertain, of course, your questions, if you do have any, to ask the Honorable Minister with us this morning. Stay with us, folks.
Up in the 7 to the West Indies. Grenada must no mass like this. No mass like this. Jumping up in the 7 to the West.
This moment is all that I've been dreaming of.
Well, focus.
Cricket, lovely cricket, as we bring you ball by ball commentaries of the T20 World Cup. The Cut and Drive Network, in association with this radio station, are pleased to be a part of the excitement. Join me, Andrew Mason, as I lead a team of top-class cricket commentators right through to the finals on June the 29th at the historic Kensington Oval. Cricket, lovely cricket, on this radio station. You got a date, so don't be late.
This moment is all that I've been dreaming of.
Well, focus.
Where are you come out? Where are you from? I was leave free promotion, it is on Monday. Somebody send out the warning.
Spend $50 or more at any Hubbard's department or participating outlets for a chance to win. Free fuel, free drinks, free prizes, free property and vehicular insurance, free Hub TV and internet, free electricity, free coke, free water, free cooking gas, free paint supplies, free Dutch Lady milk, free passes to Sunshine promotion events for 2024, free groceries, all for 1 whole year. And every winner receives a free lunch.
It's Classic Radio 105.5, 105.9 on the FM dial. And of course, in this segment, I did promise to take some calls from our valid listeners and viewers out there. Let's take this first caller and see what they has to contribute towards today's program. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Yeah, good morning, GT. Good morning to the listeners and the viewers, and of course, good morning.
And I beg of you to be brief, please, caller. Can be a bit strapped for time. So just ask your question.
Good morning to your esteemed guest. Three things. Notwithstanding what he said, I think two of the key elements that is missing at this point in terms of how we move forward in Grenada is the either lack of ability to conceptualize how we do community development and also how we enable the cooperative sector, credit union, and cooperative to really evolve and thrive. I don't think, except the PRG who made an effort in these areas, we have done poorly over the years. And I would ask him, shouldn't we focus a lot on that? Because it's low hanging fruits. I mean, in terms of having people work together, both at the community level and also when it comes to finance and so on, like they do the thing through through cooperatives and credit union. That's one. The other thing about it, he said, in terms of praise the Sixth Sense. But I just want to say that in spite of whatever we may gain, we have to consider how much we have lost, the ecosystem, the destruction of the environment. So I think sometimes maybe it might not be in our good interest for people in government to praise the Sixth Senses. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. And response to the caller?
Yes, I would want to respond with respect to the cooperatives and other private sector entities and so on. We would welcome the support and benefits from the private sector and the cooperatives, including the credit unions and so on, to assist where they can in terms of improving our social outfit. Now, nothing is barring us at the moment to do that. We basically would welcome the input from those entities and so on board. With regard to the other question that was raised, or concern was raised about damaging the ecosystem and we should be careful of touting our horn when these are concerned. Now, I believe that if we left Grenada in the jungle, we would not be able to talk about wanting to drive on proper roads and so on. So there is a balance that we have to strike. We must understand that there are pains before you can get gains. And I am one who subscribes to that. If we do it proper, you would benefit. If we do it bad, it would actually come against us. All right. We do have another caller. Caller, good morning. You're welcome. And I beg of you to be brief, please.
Good morning, JT. Good morning. Good morning to the Minister, Mr. Cornwall. I have two short questions. And one is with the Shambo Water Project. How far are we with that right now? And the second one is the River Sally Community Center. After we fix it up, after 2 years, it's still closed. We want that place open so people in the community can interact. Have a nice day, bro.
Q caller.
Okay, let me just first of all say that the Shambo lands are privately owned. Under the last administration, an attempt was made to basically bring water from the Highgate River that's in Snell Hall to Shambo, and a project that was started did some of that. If you go to Highgate right now, you realize that the pump is still not connected to the electricity and so on, so there is no water flowing from the river to the pond. I have visited that area on several occasions and so on. In fact, even the pond that was created, people actually went there and stole the liners, stole the pipes and so on. The greenhouse that was built and so on is in a waste situation and so on. I've been working with SIEP and to see if we can basically reignite that project or to bring some benefits to the farmers of Shambo, which is over 200 persons and so on that are working the lands based on what amount of agreements that they would have had. SIEP is continuously looking at it and so on, but we have to at least ensure that we debug all those problems that we have where this project is concerned. It's not because a project had started and so on and failed or stopped halfway and so on that we can basically say, well, we need to get it done tomorrow morning. We have to make sure that there is legality about it. We have to ensure that there is support for it from not only the government of Grenada, but from the population as well as the funders of this project. And we are working on that.
Okay.
The other question was
relating to the River Sally.
River Sally Community Center.
Yes.
The River Sally Community Center has been built. There were challenges. There are still challenges, but we have actually managed to bring the River Sally Community Center to a completion. I am not 100% happy with what I've seen on the ground because, I mean, as a child growing up in River Sally, I know there was a road between the community center and the property adjacent. Right now, there isn't that space for even a donkey to pass. And I would say that over the years, that illegal construction has been taking place there. I don't want to call name, I don't want to call family name. But we need to make sure that when we do things that spend monies and so on from the government, that we can be able to utilize the facility as intended. But the facility is completed, and we have been asked, in some cases, persons have been asking us to utilize the place for meetings and for other things and so on, and we are continuously doing so.
Okay. Let's entertain another caller this morning, maybe our final caller for the morning. Caller via WhatsApp, good morning. Caller via WhatsApp. Good morning. You're welcome. And that background noise we're not able to accommodate. Let's get some closing remarks from you, Minister, before we take a round forward.
Okay, first and foremost, I want to thank you for affording me the opportunity to come on to the point to clear the air on a number of issues that is being promulgated outside in the community and so on. I think I've done so today. Let me also say that in the 2 years in government, NDC has done a lot in those 2 years, and there will be a lot more to come. We can guarantee you, give you the assurance that we will be doing a lot more to take Grenada from where it is currently to higher heights. I want to basically thank my constituents for affording me the opportunity to represent them in Parliament and to represent them in Grenada here. And I can assure you that once I get the full support from everyone, I will be making that drastic change or big change in the constituency of St. Patrick's. Right. I thank you.
All right. Minister Cornwall, I want to thank you very much for being on the program this morning. It was a pleasure to, of course, have you. A great conversation indeed. And hope we could do it some more.
Yes, certainly. I'm available anytime once it's not going to be conflicting with other schedules I have.
All right.
So I've given you the assurance that you can call me anytime.
Sure. Thank you a whole lot. Folks, that's what we take a wrap for this edition of To The Point. It's been a bit of an extended version. Once again, all the best. And that's what we take a wrap for today's edition. Goodbye.